Hi, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Rebellious Wellness Lifestyle. Today, we're going to delve into the world of working out. Do not run away. It is not scary. It's not really hard. I'm not asking you to become a super athlete. But my guest, Ashley Selman, has really perfected training people in this. I'm going to call it a modality. For women, especially over midlife, we lose muscle really quickly. It starts when we're in our 30s. By the time you're 50, we want to be able to build muscle without agony, without going to the gym and bench pressing 200 pounds, because who wants to do that? Even if you do, good for you. I don't know a lot of women that do. So, Ashley, welcome. Thanks for being here.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm excited to be here.
We're going to talk about blood flow restriction, which sounds like it could be a lot of things, but we're going to relate it to exercise here.
Don't run away.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. We're not asking you to get hypoxic or anything on your way to being a stronger person. But let me just tell you about Ashley, because she's got quite a long track record of training people, super athletes, including Jackie Joyner Kersee. I remember her. I used to cheer her on. My gosh. Brandy Chastain from the soccer world and tons of other people that you've worked with. 30 years, is that about right? You've been training
Yeah,
people? Yeah. You've been a top trainer, a top 100, recognized by Men's Health magazine, a really top of the line magazine about health and training. You've been a top 10 trainer in the Bay Area by the San Francisco Chronicle. I lived there for a year. I love San Francisco. But
yeah.
all of this to say, Ashley knows her stuff. And she is also, believe it or not, aging. Hopefully, we get that privilege.
Right.
So you've changed over the years of what you do, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So all of this training, and then you end up with this product or this protocol called blood flow. How did you become convinced that this was a really important thing for you to hang your hat on?
Yeah. No, great question. Yeah, I've been training for 30 years, so I do own a gym and I've owned my gym for almost 20 years. So
Oh,
I've had that business for a long time. As you already said, worked with a lot of different people. I was an athlete myself at a pretty high level, so was used to working really hard, doing the heavy lifts that you're talking about that most people, most women don't want to do. It put a toll on my body. So I broke my hip when I was 13 skiing,
oh,
just was a random event. I healed from that. I went on to do a lot of high level athletics, but because that combination of a compromised hip and a lot of loading, I started having problems literally in my mid 20s. I limped through my 30s. So here I am, a trainer of elite athletes. I used to be an elite athlete myself. And literally in my 30s, I couldn't hardly even go on a hike. My hip was
oh,
so bad. I was in pain. So by the time I was 43, I had a hip replacement that I had put off and put off. And even after going through the hip replacement, I was out of the joint pain, but I was weak. I didn't have a lot of stability. I went through menopause. Actually, by 43, I was already in menopause. In retrospect, went through to my late 30s, but it wasn't really being talked about. I didn't know what I was going
mhm.
through. So this combination of this hip replacement going through menopause, the next 8 years, I literally lost probably at least 8 pounds of muscle while continuing to lift as heavy as I could, but I could no longer load myself the way I could. I was compromised my hip. I didn't want to continue putting that kind of stress on my body, but I really felt in a pickle being someone that really valued strength and health and being as vital and functional as I could. I was in this position where if I went heavy or I worked hard, I would pay for it. I would feel it. I would be aching or in discomfort. And I knew it wasn't great putting that stress on my body. But my other choice was to go easy or light. And I could tell I was losing strength. So I really felt in this pickle of what do I do for my long term health? Because I had always thought of myself as someone, I'm going to prioritize my health. I'm going to have great longevity. And then here I am going like, wow, I'm in my mid 40s. I already have a hip replacement. I'm losing muscle. I don't know what to do. And it was pretty emotional for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was depressing. It affected my hope of the future. It was a struggle. And I continued to push myself after the surgery to try to regain as much strength as I could. And it wasn't until literally 10 years after my surgery, I still had atrophy on my right leg. It had never really come back. I discovered blood flow restriction coincidentally through my dad, who had shoulder replacement, and he had learned about it through his medical and PT staff. So, as unfamiliar and maybe scary as blood flow restriction sounds, it's actually really well known in the medical and physical therapy industry, and it's been around for decades. It's not new, but it is newer to fitness because the bands that you wear on your arms and legs had to evolve and get technically savvy enough that people can use it safely on their own and they don't need any supervision. With old bands that were wider and more intense, you needed someone to supervise you and do it for you. And now it's just really easy and it's really simple and you can do it at home. And the thing I want people to know is it's not intimidating. It sounds intimidating. It's actually very easy because you use like 3-pound to 5-pound weights. And so it's very gentle on your joints. It's stressing your metabolic system in a different way, but it's not loading the joints and the muscles like traditional strength training is. So when I started doing blood flow restriction, literally within a month, my right leg bounced back to maybe 90% of what it had been. I continue to use it now. I would say I'm equal. I no longer have pain. I no longer have kind of this feeling where I have to favor that side of my body. I haven't felt this good in at least 15, 20 years. And I've done a lot of different things. So that's when you ask, how did I decide to hang my hat on this? It was my own personal experience that literally blew my mind and changed my whole paradigm of thinking about training and the different levers we pull to get results. I was like, this is completely different than anything I've done. And I've never had better results with such little stress on my body and shorter workouts, and my energy was great. So I started having my friends do it and my clients do it and realizing that everyone was having these type of experience, and the science supports it. It's not a fad. It's not a gimmick. There are years of science on this that supports how it builds muscle, even though you're doing very light loads. And without BFR, that would be an impossible statement. You don't build muscle with very light weights.
Right.
That's the challenge a lot of women have. They're not comfortable going heavy, so they use light weights. And that's still exercise. That's still something, but it's not really going to build the muscle we need. To your point, as women age, it's very easy to lose muscle and it's hard to put it back on. And so this method I got so excited about because I felt like it solved a really big need for particularly women going through midlife and beyond. And I really think it's changing how people can age and take agency of their strength in a way that's doable.
I love that. We have a lot of different topics to work in, but one of the ones I wanted to bring up because I was looking at your Instagram page and thinking about when women lose weight, they often lose muscle. And you have a post, I don't remember the exact words, but GLP and blood flow restriction are a match, right? So one of the other reasons I wanted to have you on is to talk about the boost of growth hormone that comes from using this kind of exercise, and then also the danger of losing muscle as we try to lose weight or as we do lose weight. We gain, a lot of people get the muffin top or even worse at menopause, and then they work really hard to lose weight, and then we're losing muscle. So talk about that whole situation there.
Yeah. So anytime you lose a decent amount of weight, you're going to lose some muscle with it. That's normal, but you don't want it to be a very high percentage. You want to have it be primarily body fat. With GLP-1s, partly because the weight comes off so fast and maybe because of the medication, they're still learning, but the research is clear. People are losing an average of 40% of the weight they lose as muscle, almost half. So a very high percentage, and that's not good. So what happens then? You lose the weight, you feel good, you've lost weight, but now your metabolism is slower. One thing about muscle, people think about muscles like, oh yeah, that's what makes me strong and I look good. But muscle is the foundation of our entire endocrine system, our metabolism. It's where we store glucose. So if you have less muscle, you're more likely to have insulin resistance and prediabetes or diabetes. So muscle really is important as we age to just regulate our whole system and keep us not only strong and functional from that standpoint, but our metabolism staying vital and being able to process some foods the way we need to. So muscle is really the foundation as we age to maintaining our independence, to maintaining our body composition, to maintaining our metabolism. The reason why I said BFR and GLP-1s are such a good match, the great thing about GLP-1s is that for someone who has significant health risks because of their weight, and losing weight is hard. It helps them, and it can be hopeless. It can be like, I give up. I can't, this is not achievable. GLP-1s give them hope, give them that solution. BFR is similar. It gives you hope in being able to build muscle. It's not as hard as the traditional way is. And so if you're using GLP-1 and you combine it with blood flow restriction, you'll be able to maintain your muscle much easier and have much better long-term success because you'll be able to lose the weight, but be able to maintain the muscle. So they go well together for the person that needs the GLP-1 for health reasons. This is a great adjunct. And really, for someone who hasn't done much strength training, 2 times a week, 20, 25 minutes is a great starting point with BFR to actually see pretty significant results.
And you talk about the weight training boosting human growth hormone. Talk
Human
about
growth
that.
hormone.
And what is that?
Yeah. So this is another reason why I think this is such a good method for women. So when women go through menopause, everybody knows women lose hormones. And we talk about estrogen, progesterone, testosterone. What we isn't talked about is human growth hormone, which is human growth hormone. It's exactly what it sounds like. When we're young, we have a ton of it. It helps us grow. It literally helps our bones grow, all of our tissue. So it peaks in early 20s, and then we steadily start to lose it as we get older because we're not growing. But we still need some of it for muscle maintenance. Bone is great for bone health, cognitive function. You talked about muffin top. Having human growth hormone is part of the process of breaking down our fat cells to use. So it helps us manage our weight easier. But as we go through menopause, when women go through menopause, their estrogen drops quickly. Human growth hormone drops in parallel with estrogen. Nobody talks much about human growth hormone because the way to replace it is synthetic injections, and there are risks related with that, and the risks outweigh the benefits. But blood flow restriction, there's been research done and studies out there that is very legitimate that human growth hormone is increased to at least as much as very hard, heavy lifting, but in some cases, even more human growth hormone. And that's because what the bands are doing, they're slowing down your venous blood flow, which means that when you work out, lactic acid, I don't know if you've heard the word lactic acid or lactate is built, but normally our blood flow can whisk that away and it never accumulates unless you're working at a very intense level. As we get older, that intense level becomes very difficult, if not impossible to achieve. Okay, so that's normally how human growth hormone is stimulated. When the bands are on, it's preventing that lactate to get neutralized by oxygen. So the lactate builds in the muscle and builds in the muscle, even though you're just using light weights that would never normally build that up. It's building in the muscle. That increased lactate literally sends a signal to our pituitary gland saying, we're in massive fatigue here, release human growth hormone. And human growth hormone is released because of that lactate signal it's getting that you wouldn't get if you weren't wearing those bands. So that's why it really gives this pronounced benefit and quick results because of this human growth hormone. Some of the women in my program have combated a lot of their menopause symptoms, weight gain, muscle loss, mood, foggy brain, just by increasing their human growth hormone, because human growth hormone and estrogen decline together. Science doesn't actually really know how much of the symptoms are specifically estrogen and specifically human growth hormone. And I've been seeing a lot of people feeling, I have one woman who had breast cancer, went on estrogen suppressants. So she was put into menopause. She has no estrogen. She started using BFR. She lost 22 pounds. She's reduced her thyroid medication. Her triglycerides went from 129 to 54.
Wow.
And so it's a hormone that does wonderful things for our body, but in the past, it was very hard to generate naturally as we age. And this is a tool that allows that to be possible again.
So I'm thinking vasculature, pressure, blood pressure. Does it do anything good for blood pressure? It sounds like it might elevate somebody's blood pressure.
Great question. So it does slightly elevate blood pressure, not any more than if you were doing an intense workout.
Okay.
But this is a less intense workout, but it is increasing some blood pressure. If somebody, there are a few contraindications, but not as many as you would think, actually. If someone has high blood pressure that is not being treated for it, they should get treated for their high blood pressure first. Then they can use BFR and their blood pressure will improve. Anyone who's used it consistently, your blood pressure comes down, because what happens when you're using it, it's constricting. So our brain, our body knows we're getting less oxygen. We need to expand our blood vessels. We need to produce nitric oxide, which is this great hormone that thins the blood, expands the vascular system, and it creates flexibility in our vascular system, which we lose as we age. That's what causes blood pressure to go up. The stiffer our vascular system is, the higher our blood pressure is. Blood flow restriction will encourage flexibility back in the vascular system and also teaches the vascular system to become more efficient again. The little tiny muscles along the inside of the blood vessels get awakened and work better. Our mitochondria get healthier. Our mitochondria are the cells that take oxygen from our blood and push it into our muscle for energy. And as those get more efficient, our energy gets better. Daily life feels a little easier because for every heartbeat, we're turning more of that blood into energy with no extra effort. So there's really, it sounds almost, when I talk about it, sometimes I feel like it almost sounds like too good to be true. There's so many benefits. It's just recreating high level exercise benefits, just with the low stress.
I'm going to add sleep to one of the benefits. Although I haven't done your blood flow restriction training, I know that if I'm more regular with my weight training, I sleep better. It was actually my Aura ring that started me thinking about this, because every once in a while I'll say, "Oh, your sleep wasn't that great last night. When was the last time you worked out with weights or something?" And I'll be like, "What?" And sure enough, it really does seem to make a difference. So I'm thinking if you add all these other things, better energy during the day, more blood flow, go and increased human growth factor and estrogen, like all those things are going to help us sleep better. There's no question. And I don't know a person listening to this almost at any age these days that wouldn't be happy with more regular deep sleep.
Yeah. I have a lot of people in my program that they self-report that they're sleeping better. It's been shown that deep sleep, so the deep sleep will increase when you have more human growth hormone. So that is a huge benefit. And yeah, any kind of working out is going to help you sleep. But this is just like giving you a little bit, giving you that extra bang from the workout. So the benefits just across the board are improved. So sleep, brain function, it actually improves blood flow to the brain because it increases BDNF, which is something that helps our body brain derive neurotropic factor. So it's fuel for the brain. It's creating more capillaries. So it improves blood flow. It decreases blood pressure. It improves energy. It builds muscle. It builds bone. But these are all things that is true of high intensity working out. But as you said, as we get older, that's less appealing. Doesn't feel so good on our body. Maybe like for me, I couldn't do it anymore because of my hip. I know lots of women out there that for whatever reason or another, just it's not realistic to work out hard to get that type of response. This way they can still get those benefits.
When I was researching this BFR, I saw, as we talked about earlier, many guys, like there's a lot of websites and you can buy these bands everywhere, including Amazon, right? But I'm the type of person who doesn't want to work out with a guy who's buff and 35 years old. Forgive me. Maybe there was a time that I did, but I also don't want to just get these things and hope for the best. So you have created trainings for people that are virtual that they can tap into at your website, selistrength.com. You want to tell us about
Exactly. So you're right. When I first got into BFR myself, I was looking for how to learn exactly how to program it and realizing that it's completely different from regular training in terms of volume and the type of exercise you want to do. And there's not a lot out there. So my whole point was like, women need to be supported and encouraged to do this, because if you Google it online, it's going to look very intimidating. It started in a lot of bodybuilders were using it because it's so effective at building muscle, and Olympic and professional athletes were using it, and then physical therapy. So it's obviously legitimate if those circles are using it, but no one was really targeting women. And I just thought, partly it's me. I'm 54. I'm been in menopause. I'm in that demographic. And I just thought women need to know how good of a solution this is for them. Doesn't appear that way when you look it up. And so then I created a virtual program that basically, I have 2 tracks. So there's the foundation track that is more for someone who hasn't done a lot of strength training, but has been hearing that they should, or they've decided they want to, but don't know how to get started. But maybe they do a lot of other fitness things like yoga, walking, cardio, but they need that strength component. And then there's the advanced, which is more for somebody who has been doing strength training but they wouldn't mind putting less stress on their body. They wouldn't mind shorter workouts. It can supplement. If you're someone that does some heavy lifting and you want to keep that in your program, this is a great supplement to that. So I have 2 tracks. And really, you start with super basic. We introduce you to the bands, exactly how they work, how to put them on, what the right pressure is. We give very basic exercises to start, and we just gradually progress. It's a monthly coaching program where you get an actual, it's not just streaming digital content. I know there's a lot of that. It's an actual like personal training program where we give you exactly the workouts you should do each week. There's coaching calls. We bring in guest experts and talk about different topics. So you have a coach. So it's a lot more supportive. There's some personalization to it. And every week we're giving a new program. There's live Zoom classes, but all those classes are recorded and become your homework. So you can really choose if you want live or just on your own. And I try to make it, you can do it from home. Very little equipment is needed. People need to have their own light dumbbells, and we send them exercise tubing with their kit. So we try to remove a lot of the barriers for people that there tends to be when starting a strength program.
And you would get the ones for your arms and your legs, right? We're not doing just isolating one part of the body.
So with my program, so there's a set that I like. You're right. There's a bunch out on the market, all different price ranges. The cheaper ones I don't recommend, especially for midlife and beyond, because they're just too aggressive. There's no way to know how much pressure you're putting on. They don't stretch at all. The ones I have were created by a cardiologist, actually, who was probably the expert in BFR in the US. It was started in Japan, literally in the 60s and 70s. So they are ahead of us with the technology, but he studied with the Japanese and created these bands. And what I like about them is they're this kind of softer rubber, and they have these individual little pockets. So you can't really see it super well. Yeah. But yeah, so when you pump up, it's never creating a tourniquet. The old bands, if you would go tight and you'd wear them for a long time, they created a tourniquet. And if you see anything negative about BFR, the risks, it was with those old bands that were just too much on our vascular system. These have been developed where that cannot happen. No matter how tight you go, it does not cut off your blood flow. It's never a tourniquet, and they're much more comfortable. The other thing I hear people say is, who have done BFR with other bands, oh, it's horrible. It hurts. It's terrible. These bands do not hurt. They're way more user friendly. Now, you will get a burn when you exercise. I don't want to say you don't have to work at all. Like you feel a burn, like a lactate burn in your muscle that you want to work through, but it's just a different intensity. It's not heavy. It's not taxing on your frame. There's no pain with the bands. And so I picked these bands because they're the easiest for people to use on their own. I can coach them really easy what pressure to put it at. I'm 100% confident in that they're not going to do anything that's going to hurt themselves. And I actually sell them in my program as a payment plan because these bands cost $450 retail. Some of the other bands out there are even more expensive. And I know a lot of people are like, I've never done this before. I don't want to shell out all this money for something. So I do a $50 a month payment plan. If you want to keep them, you just pay them for 6 months. You end up getting them below market. If you don't like them, you just send them back, and that's it. So tried to lower the risk of somebody taking that step to start.
Yeah. So to wrap this up, let's see how we can help some people that are still resistant to this idea that it could be easier. Or I've heard of lactose. Am I going to get that burning in my shins? Or the day after you've worked out hard and you can't walk because you're right.
That's a great question.
Let's just take away let's answer some of their objections. How about that?
One great point you just said is when you do BFR, the first few times you might feel a little sore, especially if you hadn't worked that muscle in a while. But really with BFR, you should not be sore. The sign of a good workout is that you're not sore because we're going lightweight. So we're not tearing the muscle fiber. We're not breaking down the muscle fiber. We're not stressing the joint. We're relying on our metabolic system, which is the lactate. There's other anabolic hormones that get triggered by this method because of the building up of the metabolites in the blood. So it's a totally different way our body's getting stronger, but it's a faster way because we don't have to recover as long. We don't have especially as we age, if we do a really hard workout, it can knock us back for a couple of days. And this is not that way. So there is not soreness. The workouts are 20 minutes. And you can go at your own comfort level. If you're new to strength training, you don't have to go to this burn that's crazy. You're going to get a little burn, and the burn is the key to triggering that human growth hormone. But it's up to you of how much you want to push that. And as you start to get results and feel it and get comfortable with it, it becomes easier to push it a little bit more because it gets exciting. I've had so many people do this program who have not been able to be consistent with strength training for whatever reason. It takes too much time. I don't want to go to a gym. I don't have the right equipment. It's too hard. I get sore. They're like, oh, 20 minutes. I'm not sore. I do it from home. It's not intimidating. I feel good. Wow. I'm seeing results quickly. I want to keep doing this. So there's this positive motivation cycle because there's more positive experience with it than all these barriers that might deter someone.
Sounds like an inarguable way to put it. And I like those. I like that.
Yeah. Yeah. I think I said this to you in the beginning. I have a gym. I wasn't looking to start another business, but when I found this for myself and started seeing my friends and clients have these results, I just couldn't help but like I really want to and need to create this because it's so underutilized. It's just not known enough. And I feel like it can do so much good. So this really is a passion project of mine.
Well, we're happy that you have this passion project because honestly, I'd never heard about it until we got matched on the podcast platform. And then when I, of course, looked it up, I'm like, where has this been? Why isn't it? But part of the reason is where has this been for women, as you said? Most of what I saw online was not directed towards women and aging and feeling stronger and getting stronger, right? It was just this bit about how powerful
Yeah.
these things are, mostly for men, as we said. So I'm
Yeah.
glad it's your passion project. I'm going to give people your website again. It's Seli, Seli Strength.com. You can read all about the program. There's tons of testimonials. And if anybody listening is feeling like I'm too old, girlfriend, she has people on there. You have women in their 60s, 70s. I don't know whether you go beyond that, but all ages of people have been using this.
I will say, I think some of my clients who have gotten the best results are in their 70s.
Interesting.
And that's, I think, because they get even though a lot of them have already been healthy and trying to work out and doing the right things, but being able to get this boost of strength and human growth hormone energy, it's just been life-changing for a lot of myself. I have some clients in their 80s. I would say the age isn't as important as someone who can move, get up and down off the ground. We have the foundation programs. Neither program is crazy intense, but you just need to be able to move without pain. So a lot of people in my 70s and 80s have been able to do the program and really enjoyed it.
That's great. And it could be, as you said earlier, if you're already doing other things, this could be an adjunct. And I know, and I talk to my girlfriends too. I have to do my weight training. I have to do my weight. It's like the thing that we do last or maybe once a week, knowing that we have to do it. I don't know why we get resistant, but it's partially it's like the gym, who has a full set of weights and stuff downstairs in their basement or in their garage, or maybe they do in their garage and it's covered in dust.
Yeah.
Who knows?
And women have been indoctrinated to cardio our whole lives.
Oh, absolutely.
And a lot of women enjoy that, and that's great. But as we age, the cardio does not give us the same results as when we were younger and had all those healthy hormones, and it was easy to maintain muscle. As we age, the strength becomes harder. But if someone's not used to doing it, like you said, it can be a drag.
Yeah, this sounds like it's not going to be a drag, and I think I'm signing up myself.
So, I love it. I love it.
Yeah. Ashley, thank you so much for your time and your expertise. I'm super happy to bring this to all the listeners.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. It was a pleasure.
You're most welcome. People, I'll be back next week with another excellent guest. Be well till then.